we take seriously the responsibility to preserve it. We are NTD.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. We have a lot of stories to go through today. The search for more survivors in Texas is underway. The death toll rose to over 80 across 6 counties after the devastating floods over the weekend. Updates from officials and what locals are saying about the tragedy. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is due to meet with President Trump at the White House this afternoon, while Israeli officials hold indirect talks with Hamas in Doha. More about the chance of reaching a deal. President Donald Trump hits Japan and South Korea with a 25% tariff. The president points to persistent trade imbalances between the allies. President Trump warns BRICS members they might face additional tariffs for anti-American policies. How they're responding on the second day of the summit in Brazil.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. Search and recovery efforts continue in Central Texas. Officials held a news briefing today in Kerr County following deadly floods that have left the Lone Star State in shock.
Search and rescue operations are ongoing throughout Kerr County. We're using assets from local, state, and national first responders. Hundreds of trained first responders are working every aspect of this emergency. As of 8:30 this morning, we recovered 75 deceased bodies here in Kerr County, including 48 adults and 27 children. Of this 48 adults and 27 children, 15 adults and 9 children are pending identification. At present, there are 10 campers from Camp Mystic unaccounted for and 1 counselor. We continue to offer our condolences to those affected. Reuniting the families remain our top priority here on this operation. Please note that Highway 39 of an Old Ingram Loop remains closed to the public. Other than those who live in that area would not be allowed out there.
And I want to say thank you to the millions of Texans, to the millions of Americans, to the millions of people all over the world right now who are praying for Texas and praying for those parents. Going through this grief, it is going to take love, it is going to take friends and family embracing and hugging and holding them while they weep.
The Independence Day weekend floods killed at least 85 people across 6 counties. President Donald Trump said he would likely visit Friday. With more rain on the way, the risk of life-threatening flooding was still high in Central Texas.
The death toll from the Texas floods continues to rise. Speaking on Sunday, Texas Governor Greg Abbott said authorities still didn't know how many people were missing.
There are people who are missing who are not on the known confirmed missing because we don't yet know who they are.
President Trump signed a major disaster declaration Sunday for Kerr County. It activated the Federal Emergency Management Agency to Texas. The president said he would likely visit Friday.
I would have done it today, but we'd just be in their way, probably Friday.
The epicenter of the flooding was in Kerr County, northwest of San Antonio. That's the location of Camp Mystic, a nearly century-old Christian girls' camp. Officials say at least 28 children were killed in the county, with 10 girls and 1 camp counselor still missing. Camp director Dick Eastland is also missing. On Sunday, Texas Public Radio reported that he had been killed. There has been no official confirmation so far. Governor Abbott said he visited Camp Mystic Saturday.
And it was nothing short of horrific to see what those young children went through. And we will remain 100% dedicated, searching for every single one of the children who were at Camp Mystic, as well as anybody else in the entire riverbed.
Search and rescue teams are still working along the Guadalupe River to search for missing persons. One young camper recalled barely escaping the rising water at Camp La Junta around 12 miles east of Kerrville.
I wake up in the morning around 4 a.m. maybe, and I just hear screaming coming out from outside. And then eventually later on, I find out that someone's cabin had flooded and they all went outside.
On Sunday, Governor Abbott warned there could be more flooding in central Texas over the next couple of days.
There is heavy rainfall that's already occurred, and there's more heavy rainfall that's expected that will lead to potential flash flooding broadly in these regions.
The flooding occurred after the river broke its bank following torrential rainfall Friday. On Sunday, Pope Leo XIV offered condolences to the victims in his home country.
I would like to express sincere condolences to all the families who have lost loved ones, in particular their daughters who were at summer camp in the disaster caused by the flooding of the Guadalupe River in Texas in the United States. We pray for them.
Kerrville officials said Sunday they were committed to a full review of emergency systems in place. This came after some local residents started a petition for an early warning siren system. Kerrville City Manager Dalton Rice said local and regional partners will take steps to strengthen further preparedness.
We're now going to NTD's Andrew Thomas, who has more on how residents are reacting to the tragedy in Kerr County, Texas.
Volunteers walk up and down the banks of the Guadalupe River in Kerr County. They're trying to find survivors or the remains of the missing after torrential rains flooded parts of central Texas. Jessica James says the mom and her motivated her to help in Center Point.
You know, I've got 2 babies at home. It's the least I could do. You know, they're home safe, and there's people out there that they're missing their children or their family members. So I feel like it's the least I could do to help. So, yeah, it's what I would want if my kids were missing.
Daniel Ramirez is hopeful that they'll find survivors, but recognizes that it may be too late for some. The volunteer says the tragedy has rattled him and his community.
Seeing all the devastation and the trees and the clothing, the random bits of flotsam floating around the river really hits home, you know, how many people are affected by this, the depth of the tragedy and destruction that we're all going through right now.
About 20 miles west of Center Point, retired dentist Macon Ware was absorbing the weight of the tragedy. The 78-year-old resident of Hunt described his connection to Camp Mystic, where dozens of campers went missing.
A week ago at Camp Mystic, I had 5 granddaughters in Camp Mystic, and they finished their first session, and they're home now. But some of their friends were there for the second session, and my heart goes out to all those little girls.
Sandra Killian has connections to Camp Mystic as well. For her, the tragedy is surreal.
It's killing me. And I know I know a very young counselor who actually stayed at our house right before she went to be her first-year counselor. She was one of the people that grabbed a kid and the kid floated away.
Search and rescue operations continue in Central Texas. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Meanwhile, the Dallas Cowboys, Houston Texans, and the NFL Foundation are helping those affected by the deadly flooding. The 2 teams and the foundation will donate $500,000 each to assist those impacted. Meanwhile, as search and rescue efforts continue in Texas, House Speaker Mike Johnson says lawmakers will take up funding as requests come in. 2 congressmen had family members rescued from the deadly floods, though one of them didn't make it. NTD's Melina Weisskopf reports.
At least 27 deaths confirmed from Camp Mystic, a girls' summer camp in Texas hit hard by the flooding. Congressman Chip Royce from the district, he said the search efforts are still underway for the 11 people still missing.
You know, I met with the families last night of those who have still not found their little girls from Camp Mystic. It's one of the toughest meetings I've ever had to have. And
9-year-old Janie Hunt was confirmed dead. She was the cousin of Congressman Buddy Carter's granddaughters, who were rescued at the camp along with Congressman August Pfluger's daughters.
It touches so many families, and all we know to do at this moment is pray. Every available resource has been deployed. The president, of course, is dialed in and watching this develop moment by moment as we are, and we'll handle supplemental funding requests as they come in, but right now they're still trying to do rescue and recovery, and our hearts go out to all of them.
Texas Congressman Joaquin Castro said the state government should examine the funding on hand to prepare for future issues.
I think the state government should take a look at it's got surplus no fund actually that's got tens of billions of dollars at this point. I think the governor and state government should look at what they can do in terms of longer term planning to be helpful in helping to prevent this kind of flooding to the extent that that is possible. Again, this all happened very fast. You're obviously dealing with a natural body of water. And so, but there are things that you can do to mitigate the chances that this happens again in the future.
Congressman Tony Gonzalez says the flash floods have repeated over the past few weeks.
This long drought. So over the last several weeks, we've gotten a whole lot of rain. Just here in San Antonio, a few weeks ago, we had 13 people that drowned because of these flash floods. And when the flash flood hits, it hits at lightning speed, and it's very, very unpredictable.
Lawmakers return to Washington, D.C. this week. Debate around preparedness and disaster funding is likely to take center stage due to prolonged droughts and random flash floods. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
We're moving now to the Carolinas, where there's a new danger of flooding. Tropical storm Chantal made landfall early Sunday near Litchfield Beach, South Carolina. By the late morning, Chantal weakened into a tropical depression, and storm warnings were dropped across the Carolinas. Still, forecasters warned of flash flood risks and the chance of isolated tornadoes in eastern North Carolina. Forecasters say rainfall could reach up to 6 inches in some areas. That's as the Haw River surged near historic levels last night. In Chatham County, North Carolina, roads flooded and parts of a highway collapsed, with emergency crews still rescuing stranded motorists. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is scheduled to have dinner at the White House with President Donald Trump this evening. Israel's military is pushing for a diplomatic solution now that most of Hamas's senior leaders are dead. Here's more.
In my conversation with President Trump, I will first and foremost thank him for his very strong support for Israel. We are working to achieve the deal that has been discussed under the conditions we have agreed to. I have sent a team to negotiate with clear instructions. I believe that the conversation with President Trump can definitely help advance this outcome, which we all hope for.
I think we're close to a deal on Gaza. We could have it this week.
President Donald Trump is hosting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House today as a Gaza ceasefire appears within reach. Delegations from Hamas and Israel are meeting in Doha for proximity talks. Those are one of the final stages in negotiations for an agreement. Both sides say they're open to a framework for a 60-day ceasefire. Netanyahu is under growing pressure to end the fighting.
The hostages need to get out by any means necessary right now. 20 of them presumed to be alive, including my 2 little brothers. They have limited time.
I agree to a 60-day truce, even if it's 50 days or 40 days, just to rest a little. We are exhausted, psychologically and physically.
More from the Middle East. A U.S. envoy to Lebanon expressed optimism today. Envoy Tom Barak said he was satisfied with the Lebanese government's response to a proposal to disarm the Hezbollah terror group.
What the government gave us was something spectacular. In a very short period of time, in a very complicated manner, I'm unbelievably satisfied with the response. Now what it takes is a parry and thrust to the details, which we're going to do. We're both committed to get to the details and get a resolution.
Barak added that Washington is ready to help the small crisis-hit nation come out of its historical, political, and economic crisis. His meetings in Lebanon came amid fears that Hezbollah's refusal to immediately disarm would renew war with Israel. Last month, Barak gave Lebanese officials a proposal that aims to disarm Hezbollah and move on with some economic reforms to try to get Lebanon out of its nearly 6-year economic crisis. Barak says President Trump and the U.S. are ready to help Lebanon change, saying if the country doesn't want change, that's its decision, but the rest of the region is moving at Mach speed. Coming up, President Donald Trump hits Japan and South Korea with a 25% tariff. The president points to persistent trade imbalances between the allies. That and more after the break.
Hi, I'm Ty Pennington, here for Choice Home Warranty. They protect my home from expensive repairs, and they can do the same for you. No matter if it's your refrigerator, plumbing, or more than 20 other home systems and appliances, Choice Home Warranty has saved millions of homeowners a whole lot of money. For a low monthly fee, you get their nationwide network of trusted local technicians with plans that cover repairs and replacements done quickly and the right way. No more headaches searching for technicians. No more budget-breaking chaos. Just a peace of mind of having Choice Home Warranty at your service. Call Choice Home Warranty now and save big with their special offer of your first month free and free limited roof coverage. Call now.
Call Choice Home Warranty for your free personalized quote and to get your first month free. Call in the next 5 minutes, and as our special offer, you'll receive free limited roof coverage. Call now to lock in your rate and save big. Call 800-210-6422. 800-210-6422.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste, and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth, without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one, get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one, get one free offer goes away.
The Trump administration's 90-day tariff pause comes to an end Wednesday. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the U.S. will make several trade announcements in the next 48 hours. He also said he would meet with his Chinese counterpart in the next couple of weeks. He made these comments in an interview with CNBC this morning. Take a listen.
We are going to have several announcements in the next 48 hours. And, Joe, I think what President Trump is concerned about is the quality of the deals, not the quantity. We've had a lot of people change their tune in terms of negotiations. So my mailbox was full last night with a lot of new offers, a lot of new proposals. So it's going to be a busy couple of days.
Trump said the U.S. would start delivering tariff letters at 12 p.m. Eastern today. According to Bessent, the letters would not necessarily provide an ultimatum. He said, quote, "It's just thank you for wanting to trade with the United States of America." He added, "We welcome you as a trading partner, and here's the rate unless you want to come back and try to negotiate." Bessent declined to comment on whether negotiations on new ownership of TikTok would be linked to trade talks. Trump said the TikTok ownership discussion would start this week. Bessent said he would meet with his Chinese counterpart in the next couple of weeks. He said the U.S. and China will discuss whether they are able to move beyond trade into other areas. President Donald Trump has hit Japan and South Korea with a 25% tariff. Duties on both nations' exports to the U.S. will take effect August 1st. Trump pointed to what he described as persistent trade imbalances between the allies. The president posted letters to the leaders of both countries on Truth Social to announce the tariffs. The letters warned both countries not to retaliate by increasing their own import taxes. Trump wrote, quote, "If for any reason you decide to raise your tariffs, then whatever the number you choose to raise them by will be added onto the 25% that we charge." The president added that he hoped Japan and South Korea could reach a trade agreement with the U.S. Yesterday, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that tariff letters to about 100 countries are set to go out over the next 3 days. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on that and other trade updates.
When I'm out talking to business,
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the next couple of days will be very busy.
President Trump's going to be sending letters to some of our trading partners saying that if you don't move things along, then on August 1st, you will boomerang back to your April 2nd tariff level.
Bessent predicts a lot of deals going down quickly.
And, Dana, we're going to send out probably 100 letters to small countries where we don't have very much trade, and most of those are already at the baseline 10%.
The Treasury Secretary pushed back on concerns about tariffs fueling inflation.
The empirical data shows that we have seen no inflation thus far, and we'll see over the coming months.
Meanwhile, President Trump said Sunday some trade deals had been made with trading partners, and letters would go out to other countries notifying them of higher tariff rates.
Sending letters out on Monday having to do with the trade deals.
Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick told reporters the higher tariffs would take effect on August 1st.
Tariffs go into effect August 1st, but the president is setting the rates and the deals right now.
Lutnick discussed the possibility of trade deals being signed this week.
Well, the president is right in the midst of discussing all sorts of deals with all sorts of countries, and the gentleman to my right's going to decide, and I'm going to be with him when he makes that decision.
I think we'll have most countries done by July 9th, yeah. Either a letter or a deal. Howard.
Trump in April announced a 10% base tariff rate on most countries and higher additional rates ranging up to 50%. The president later delayed the effective date for all but 10% until July 9th. Over to China, the communist nation unveiled new restrictions on Sunday that further limit European medical device companies' access to its market. Government contracts valued at over $6 million will exclude EU-based companies. The country's ministry also placed restrictions on non-EU suppliers, requiring them to keep the medical equipment imported from the EU to 50% or less of the total contract value. The move was retaliation for restrictions introduced by the EU in June. The June rules bar Chinese companies and products from participating in medical device tenders. The EU says its move against China was a response to the communist nation's long-standing exclusion of EU-made medical devices from Chinese government contracts. President Trump on Sunday said that countries aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of BRICS will be charged an additional 10% tariff. The president wrote on Truth Social, there will be no exceptions to this policy.
The original BRICS group consisted of Brazil, Russia, India, and China. It now also includes South Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
More on trade. The European Union said today it wants to reach a deal with the U.S. and avoid tariffs.
We want to achieve win-win outcomes, not lose-lose outcomes. Progress has been made towards an agreement in principle. We consulted with our member states on Friday. Our president talked to the American president yesterday, and we are working hard, all parts of the machine, towards getting something over the line by the 9th of July.
EU spokesperson Olaf Gill says Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and President Trump had a good exchange yesterday. It was not immediately clear whether there had been a meaningful breakthrough to prevent sweeping tariff hikes on the EU. Without an agreement, U.S. tariffs on most EU imports would rise from their current 10% to 20%, which Trump laid out on April 2nd. France's finance minister Eric Lombard spoke out against Chinese imports harming Europe's industrial economy. He said Europe needs to strengthen tariff barriers. Lombard mentioned Europe's actions to protect domestic steel and cars, but he says wider protections are needed. Speaking at an economic conference in France, he said all industrial sectors need tariff protection. He said that otherwise, the Chinese policy of having more than 50% global market share in each sector will kill European industry. The Chinese regime imposed new duties on European brandy on Friday. The European Union imposed up to 45% tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles last year. Coming up, President Donald Trump has threatened new tariffs on any nation supporting anti-American policies of the BRICS group. What is the level of influence BRIC has on the global stage? We talked to an economist. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Ty Pennington, here for Choice Home Warranty. They protect my home from expensive repairs, and they can do the same for you. For a low monthly fee, you get their nationwide network of trusted local technicians with plans that cover repairs and replacements done quickly and the right way. Call Choice Home Warranty now and save big with their special offer of your first month free and free limited roof coverage. Call now.
Call now to lock in your rate and save big. Call 800-360-7824.
I can't get a hold of my mom.
I'm sure it's nothing.
I've called her 5 times.
I'm sure she's fine.
Is Grandma okay? Help! I've fallen and I can't get up.
Don't worry, ma'am. We're sending help right now.
Hello?
Hello, this is Life Alert. Your mother had an emergency, and we dispatched paramedics to her home.
Oh my gosh, what happened?
She had a fall, but don't worry. She is safe, and the paramedics are helping her right now.
Thank you.
Life Alert saves a life every 11 minutes. With one simple touch of a button, Life Alert sends help immediately. Whether it's to report a fall, a medical emergency, or an intruder, Life Alert sends first responders fast.
For a free brochure, call 800-382-9846. 800-382-9846. That's 800-382-9846.
My mom and dad were traditional Asian parents. Now my father would go to work before I woke up in the morning, and then he would come home too tired to play with me. I tell my son, I love you every single day.
I love you.
Now my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. So I teased him the other day and I said, how come you never say that to me? And he said, you're too old now. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the material things, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious minute or moment.
Say bye-bye. Bye-bye.
We are taught you don't talk about your problems with nobody because you could get in trouble. And I've been through a lot. Anxiety, depression, sexual assault. When I decided to get help, my life changed. In the mental health box, that was one of the big tools. Accepting help means that we are allowing somebody to bless our life. It's freeing. We got stronger together. Love your mind.
A gunman armed with a rifle and tactical gear opened fire on law enforcement officers this morning at a Border Patrol facility in McAllen, Texas. He was later shot and killed in an exchange of gunfire with Border Patrol and local police. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security confirmed the news to multiple media outlets. A DHS statement said Border Patrol and local police helped neutralize the shooter. The statement also said there was an ongoing investigation led by the FBI's Border Patrol's Rio Grande Valley sector, also posted about the shooting on Facebook. The post says the incident is under investigation and more information will be shared as it becomes available. A large explosion tore through a Utah strip mall Saturday night after a multi-car crash inside the complex. It triggered authorities to issue evacuation alerts to local residents. Eyewitness video captured the dramatic moment with smoke rising from behind a number of buildings right before a massive blast sent a huge fireball into the air. Harriman City Police confirmed on social media that a vehicle crash caused an explosion and structure fire in the area. Early yesterday morning, local police said a gas leak caused by the crash has been contained and evacuation orders have been lifted. Police say there were 3 people injured in the incident, and the condition and names of the people involved still remain unknown. President Trump defended former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro yesterday. Bolsonaro is facing trial over an alleged plot to overturn his country's 2022 presidential election results to remain in power. Trump criticized the Brazilian government's legal actions. He's calling the prosecution a witch hunt, saying Bolsonaro is not guilty of anything. Trump wrote in a Truth Social post, quote, His election was very close, and now he is leading in the polls. This is nothing more or less than an attack on a political opponent, something I know much about it. It happened to me 10 times, and times 10 rather, and now our country is the hottest in the world. Trump said the Brazilian people won't tolerate what he calls political persecution of their former leader. He argued that Bolsonaro and his supporters are being unfairly targeted and that the only trial they should face is at the ballot box. An Australian woman was convicted of murdering 3 elderly relatives of her estranged husband with a meal laced with poisonous mushrooms. Here's more on a case that's gripped the country.
Leaving court in a prison van, Australian woman Erin Patterson has been found guilty of murdering 3 of her estranged husband's elderly relatives with a meal laced with poisonous mushrooms. The 50-year-old was convicted on Monday of 3 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder, ending a 10-week trial that's captivated the country and made headlines around the world. Victorian Police Detective Inspector Dean Thomas, after the verdict, urged the public and media to respect the privacy of the grieving families.
I think it's very important that we remember that we've had 3 people. 3 people have died, and we've had a person that nearly died and was seriously injured as a result, and that has led to these charges. I ask that we acknowledge those people and not forget them.
In 2023, Patterson invited her former in-laws to lunch at her home in Leongatha, a town 84 miles from Melbourne. The meals she served would later be found to contain deadly death-cap mushrooms. 3 guests, her mother-in-law Gail Patterson, father-in-law Donald Patterson, and Gail's sister Heather Wilkinson died. Heather's husband, Ian Wilkinson, survived after spending weeks in hospital. Prosecutors told the court Patterson faked a cancer diagnosis to lure the guests to lunch. She gave herself an untainted meal and pretended to be sick to avoid suspicion. She later tried to cover up the crime by lying to police and destroying evidence. Patterson had pleaded not guilty, claiming the deaths were accidental. She was the only witness in her defense, spending 8 days on the stand. She said she lied about cancer because she was embarrassed to admit she was actually having weight loss surgery. She claimed she had not become as ill as her guests because she secretly binged on a cake and then made herself sick. The trial has drawn huge public interest, with local and international media descending outside the court in the town of Morwell, despite being warned of lengthy delays. Several documentaries on the case are already in the works. Locals like shopkeeper Kerry have been following the case closely.
Many things were said where I did think, oh my goodness, I think she's done this. And either way, there are no winners. There are no winners in this. You know, everyone has suffered.
Patterson will be sentenced at a later date and faces a maximum life sentence.
Today is the second and last day of the BRICS summit in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Tariffs imposed by the U.S. is a key topic. President Trump warns that BRICS members with anti-American policies might face additional tariffs. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pazdar is in Brazil with the latest.
I think we'll have most countries done by July 9th, yeah.
President Trump on Sunday saying he's optimistic most countries will enter a trade deal with the U.S. this week. Trump's import tariffs are scheduled to go into effect on August 1st. On Sunday evening, Trump said that any country aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of BRICS will be charged an additional 10% tariff. There will be no exceptions to this policy. On Monday, BRICS member states such as Russia, Brazil, and South Africa denied having anti-American policies. That's despite the fact that the alliance has repeatedly called for an end to the US dollar as the global reserve currency. And just on Monday, Brazil's President Lula da Silva criticized NATO while also calling for a reform of the International Monetary Fund.
On NATO's recent decision to increase defense spending fuels the arms race. Through the vision for IMF reform, we will engage more countries in the general review of IMF quotas.
And also during the BRICS summit here in Brazil, leaders of the bloc said that wealthy nations should help poorer countries transition to net zero. They argue that providing climate finance is the responsibility of developed countries towards less developed nations. Critics argue that such policies have strong communist tendencies. BRICS released a statement reading, "Ensuring accessible, timely and affordable climate finance for developing countries is critical for enabling just transitions pathways." According to the UN, climate finance refers to all financial flows related to climate action. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said in today's briefing that the National Weather Service did its job in providing timely flood warnings before the tragedy happened in Texas. Joining us now live is NTD's Iris Tao from the White House. Good afternoon, Iris. Tell us more about this.
Good afternoon to you as well, Don. Of course, as response is ongoing when it comes to the floods in Texas, the White House today says that it was an act of God, that the flash floods came in when people were sleeping in the middle of the night. And it's not the administration's fault that it happened at this timing. She did actually, though, defend the National Weather Service, saying that they did give out early and consistent warnings in the hours and days leading up to the incident. Watch.
Blaming President Trump for these floods is a depraved lie, and it serves no purpose during this time of national mourning. May God bless the great people of Texas, especially the parents who have lost their children. President Trump loves you. We are praying for you, and he will be traveling to see you later this week.
And specifically on July 3rd, the White House says the National Weather Service conducted forecast briefings for emergency management in the morning and also issued a flash flood watch in the early afternoon. And flash flood warnings also went out on the night of July 3rd as well as in the early morning of July 4th, more than 3 hours before flash flooding conditions occurred. And President Trump this week is expected to visit areas of Texas that were devastated by the floods. White House says it's likely that he's going to be there on Friday, though of course it depends on the ground situation, as the administration does not want to interrupt ongoing recovery as well as rescue efforts. And that's of course something we'll be highly looking for later of this week. Back to you.
And as well, Iris, the president just made fresh announcements on tariffs. What's the latest on that?
Sure. So just moments ago, President Trump on Truth Social announced new tariff rates on a bunch of countries, including, for example, 25% for Malaysia, 25% for Kazakhstan, 30% for South Africa, 40% for Laos, as well as 40% for Myanmar. And that comes as the White House just told us at this briefing that the White House is expected to send out 12 letters signed by President Trump today, informing these countries of the new tariff rates that they will be facing soon, of course, as no trade deals have been announced with them just yet. The White House does emphasize, though, the president's focus remains to strike a different trade plan, a tailored one with every country on this planet. Watch.
The fact that he has announced a framework with China, a trade deal with the United Kingdom, a trade deal with Vietnam, and many others to come in just a matter of 6 months is truly historic, and it's a testament to this president and his trade team who are working around the clock to get this done.
The White House says that this afternoon, President Trump will sign a new executive order delaying tariff enforcement from July 9th now to August 1st. Alternatively, though, during this period, countries can continue to negotiate with the U.S. and potentially get their trade deals. And of course, eventually, she says all the countries will either get letters from the U.S. informing them of the new tariffs rate or strike a deal with administration. And also, the president just last night announced on Truth Social that any country aligning themselves with what he calls the anti-American policies by BRICS will be subject to an additional 10% tariff. And I asked White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt today at the briefing. Here's what she told me. Watch. What policies should countries stay away from to avoid being subject to additional tariffs?
Sure. Well, the president feels, generally speaking, that BRICS is seeking to undermine the interests of the United States. It's the president's utmost responsibility to put the interests of the United States first. He'll take any action necessary to prevent countries from taking advantage of the United States and our people.
We know that in the past, officials have criticized BRICS countries, including China, for example, for trying to put together a new currency to compete with the dollar system. We, of course, expect to hear more from President Trump in the coming days, as on Tuesday, he's also expected to hold a cabinet meeting with his cabinet members with press in the room. And later today, President Trump will host Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu here at the White House for a dinner, which is expected to be closed to the press. Back to you.
Okay, Iris, thank you very much for keeping us updated. Joining us now to discuss the latest on President Trump's tariffs is Daniel Lacalle, chief economist at Tressis Hedge Fund and author of the book Freedom or Equality. Daniel, always good to see you. So you just heard moments ago, Trump issued multiple letters imposing tariffs. That's on Malaysia, Kazakhstan. Okay, it sounds like you can't hear me right now. We'll just take a break and get that fixed before we come back to this interview. So moving on to the next topic, concerned citizens in Canada are taking action to stop forced organ harvesting. A Rotary Satellite Club is committed to raising awareness through public outreach events. The group Community Action Against Human Trafficking uses information booths, documentary screenings, and petition drives to expose the truth behind the brutal practice, calling on communities to take a stand against the atrocities. Here's more on a recent event in Calgary, Canada.
At the information booth hosted by the Satellite Rotary Club, a steady stream of people stop by to learn more. The bold message, "Stop Forced Organ Harvesting," draws public attention. Many take time to speak with volunteers, sign the petition on site, and begin to engage with this critical human rights issue.
I realize how serious this is actually, and how if we don't stop forced organ harvesting, this can happen in many, many countries.
The forced organ harvesting is a horrific crime. Falun Gong practitioners, it is the largest group that have been persecuted in China. But this persecution seems to be extended outside of China to everywhere around the world.
A Rotary Satellite Club has long raised awareness about forced organ harvesting. Recently, it held global documentary screenings of state organs, including 2 public screenings and panel discussions at Calgary Central Library. The award-winning film presents compelling evidence of the Chinese regime's ongoing human rights abuses against Falun Gong practitioners, sparking deep reflection and discussion among attendees. Falun Gong is a spiritual practice rooted in the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance, and features gentle exercises and meditation.
You know, this is a government like any other communist government that doesn't tolerate spiritual practices, either eliminated in China through forced organ harvesting and horrible torture and persecution. Outside of China, they've been using something called transnational repression.
From the number from China Tribunal, it was from 65,000 to 90,000 per year. It's commercialized on a commercial scale.
My heart is so heavy. Like, it just is it's gonna tear up. Such a heavy topic that more people need to know about. We've got to get the word out so people understand what the atrocity is like.
Additionally, the Satellite Rotary Club has actively launched petitions to promote legislation in the U.S. and other countries aimed at ending forced organ harvesting. They call on society at large to stand together in defending human rights.
We signed a petition to try to get, in addition to the U.S. House of Representatives, to have a bill that condemns this to get to the U.S. Senate.
The atrocities that are being perpetrated against Falun Gong are comparable to, if not in excess, of what happened under Nazi Germany. Of course, I support the province of Alberta to follow up with corresponding provincial legislation.
Everyone should know and everyone should get involved to try to stop.
NTD News, Canada.
Hong Kong authorities have presented a proposal to tighten prison rules to restrict visits by lawyers, religious personnel, and doctors. Critics say it's a move that would further undermine prisoner rights. Under the proposal, prison authorities could apply for a warrant to block or impose conditions on prisoner contact with specific lawyers and doctors. Hong Kong's mini-constitution safeguards the sharing of confidential legal advice between lawyers and their clients, including in court and prison, and the right to choose a lawyer. But Security Secretary Chris Tong told lawmakers that prisoner rights must be limited by the need to maintain national security. Beijing imposed a draconian national security law on the former British colony in 2020, punishing offenses deemed subversive by possible life imprisonment. The law has been used to arrest pro-democracy activists and silence groups critical of the ruling regime. It has drawn criticism from countries around the world. Coming up, restoration work on part of the Vatican museums is now complete. The spectacular paintings illustrate the peak of high Renaissance art. Stay tuned for that when we come back.
All throughout your home, appliances and systems just wait for the worst time to break down and leave you with expensive repairs. Unless you have a plan from Choice Home Warranty.
All home appliances and systems have a breakdown clock, and when it expires, it will cost hundreds and potentially even thousands of dollars to fix or replace. That's why every homeowner should have a plan with Choice Home Warranty, like I do. For a low monthly fee, a Choice Home Warranty plan will cover your heating, air conditioning, plumbing, appliances, and more. Don't let an unexpected repair wreck your budget. With Choice Home Warranty, that covered repair is fixed or replaced for you.
Choice Home Warranty has been a great company to work with, and they've taken care of us. I would suggest anybody who lives in a home not to be in a home without them.
Avoid the ticking clock of home appliances and systems breaking down with a plan from Choice Home Warranty. Call now to get your first month free. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll give you $120 off your first year of coverage. That's $200 in total savings.
With a nationwide network of over 25,000 technicians, I don't worry about how my next breakdown will be handled. With a click of a button, my claim is filed, and Choice Home Warranty starts the clock. They do the legwork, hiring the right technician and handling the cost of covered repairs and replacements. And check this out. For a limited time, you can get 1 month of coverage free. Did you hear me? Free. You can't beat that deal with a sledgehammer. But hurry, this offer is ticking away. Once the clock hits zero, poof, it's gone.
Don't fear the breakdown clock. Get a plan from Choice Home Warranty and get round-the-clock money-saving protection you can count on. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll give you $120 off your first year of coverage, plus get your first month free. This offer won't last long.
Get your home protected. Call now.
Don't wait for an appliance or system to break down. Call before that happens. Call 800-983-3523. 800-983-3523.
Looking for a healthy and smooth-tasting brew? Drop by Days Coffee Roasters today and explore our wide selection of specialty-grade small-batch roasted coffee. Home to North America's first enzyme-fermented coffee, we source a wide selection of specialty-grade coffee beans from around the world, and our baristas are ready to craft your customized brew. Visit Days Coffee at 28 North Street, Middletown, New York. Come experience a brew like no other.
My graduation was something I will never forget. People like you and me sometimes may have doubts in ourselves, but I feel that everything's possible.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
With hurricane season underway, experts are reminding families to finalize emergency plans. That includes preparation for their pets. Here's a closer look.
As hurricane threats increase across the Atlantic, officials are urging families to prepare, and that includes planning for your pets. Experts say pets need their own emergency kits: food, water, medications, leashes, toys, and vaccination records.
You want to have their medications. You also want to make sure you have a printed copy of their vaccinations. So if you do need to evacuate, there are a lot of places that will welcome your pet, but they want to make sure that you have the proper vaccinations.
Something experts say is crucial: equipping your pet with your contact information.
Let's make sure that your pet has a collar, an ID tag, and a microchip. And that microchip needs to have the most up-to-date contact information just in case your pet does get lost.
Pets can sense your stress. Experts say keeping them close in a quiet, safe space can help calm their nerves as a storm rolls in.
Right before a storm, make sure there's no gaps in your fence. You may think that your pet is not the kind of pet that would run away, but animals sense when a storm is coming, when a disaster is coming.
Never leave pets tied up or left behind. Doing so could cost them their lives and may result in cruelty charges. Last year during Hurricane Milton, rescuers found a bull terrier named Trooper chained to a fence along a Tampa highway. This incident inspired Florida to impose tougher penalties on people who abandon pets during natural disasters. Animal rescues are part of every major storm response. During Hurricane Harvey, one Houston group rescued over 2,000 animals. Hundreds of them were reunited with their families. Experts also urge families to prepare their homes well before a storm hits. That includes charging devices, fueling cars, and packing essentials and entertainment for the kids. If you decide to leave before a storm hits, make sure you have enough supplies to reach your destination. The key message from officials: don't wait till it's too late.
A new record for the largest string orchestra. 1,353 musicians braved the rain yesterday in Recklinghausen, Germany, to perform Beethoven's Ode to Joy. This surpasses the previous record set in Hong Kong in 2018 with 1,021 musicians, according to the official Guinness World Record website. Participants of all ages came together in a display of unity across generations.
The last time was 70 years ago in the school orchestra, and there were fewer of us then. But now there are a lot of us. I'm glad that so many young people are still here. Thank goodness there's still a new generation emerging.
We were really relieved that we managed it in the end. I would have been disappointed if we hadn't.
It was a wonderful adventure. It was also adventurous because the weather was very unpredictable. Luckily, we stayed dry.
The last and most iconic of the restored Raphael rooms at the Vatican Museums is now complete. After a decade of work, the spectacular paintings illustrate the peak of high Renaissance art. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
A 10-year project to clean and restore the Room of Constantine is finally finished. The hall is dedicated to the 4th century Roman Emperor Constantine. It's the work of Raphael Sanzio and his protégés.
With this restoration, we rewrite a part of the history of art, a part of art history that sees the students of Raphael, the divine Raphael, the man who left this earth at the height of the Renaissance. He died in 1520, leaving behind a great tradition, which his students embraced. And this room is exactly the moment when he left it.
Pope Julius II summoned the young Raphael from Florence to Rome in 1508. There, the 25-year-old was commissioned to decorate a new apartment in the Apostolic Palace. Vatican technicians discovered that 2 female figures on the opposite corners of the hall were actually oil-on-wall paintings, not frescoes.
Yes, during the restoration we have found Comitas and Eustichia. Investigations revealed that they were oil paintings on a wall. And since Raphael was a great artist, a great experimenter, because he was a curious man who studied ancient sources, he wanted to create them. Precisely because he was a wonderful painter of Madonnas on canvas. He wanted to create them using that technique.
But Raphael died on April 6, 1520, at the age of 37 before the hall could be completed. Unable to master the oil technique Raphael had used, his students painted the rest with frescoes.
We are certain that he, Raphael, wanted to paint everything in oil and not in fresco, thus achieving a different aesthetic result compared to a frescoed surface. We are certain of this because, as Dr. Moresi said, while working on these figures, Comitas and Eustichia, my colleagues on the scaffolding and I identified some nails protruding from the surface, but they were covered with the original paint.
During the cleaning, restorers discovered a piece that had been drilled into the wall. They believed the piece was intended to hold the natural resin surface in place so Raphael could stick to oil.
Artist biographer Vasari's claim that he, Raphael, wanted to paint everything in oil has been confirmed. Apparently, his death caused both the Pope and his, Raphael's, collaborators to change their minds about continuing this decorative cycle. From a historical and critical point of view, and also technical, it was truly a discovery. Let's consider it as such. The technique used and planned by Raphael was truly experimental for the time and has never been found in any other mural made with oil paint.
Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Now, almost 1 year after the Paris Olympics, the Seine is reopening for the public to swim. That's the first time since 1923. For the Olympics last year, the river is now open for swimming. 3 new swimming spots near Notre Dame, the Eiffel Tower, and Eastern Paris opened last Saturday. water quality to the river's murky appearance, and boat traffic. Free swimming is available until the end of August for those who are at least 10 or 14 years old, depending on the site. Jurassic World Rebirth dominated the 4th of July weekend box office, earning $147 million domestically over 5 days. The movie surpassed expectations and nearly matched the box office of the 2022 release of Jurassic World Dominion. The film is the 4th in the Jurassic World series and the 7th in the franchise that began in 1993 with Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park. The film's success is credited in part to fresh branding and the casting of Scarlett Johansson. Jurassic World Rebirth knocked the popular F1 movie into second place. Both movies will likely face fierce competition with the upcoming release of Superman, predicted to bring in more than $100 million on release. The summer box office numbers this year are up 15% compared to 2024, signaling a strong rebound, for Hollywood. Coming up, 7 bodies have been recovered after a deadly fireworks explosion in Northern California. Officials have now shared new details on the progress of the investigation. Stay with us.
Focus on beauty, showcase nature, share kindness, feel brightness. 2025, the 5th NTD International Photography Competition. Capture the beautiful moments in your eyes. Your works will be showcased in galleries and on multiple online platforms, appreciated and collected. Please visit photo.ntdtv.com.
All throughout your home, appliances and systems just wait for the worst time to break down and leave you with expensive repairs. Unless you have a plan from Choice Home Warranty.
All home appliances and systems have a breakdown clock, and when it expires, it will cost hundreds and potentially even thousands of dollars to fix or replace. That's why every homeowner should have a plan with Choice Home Warranty, like I do. For a low monthly fee, a Choice Home Warranty plan will cover your heating, air conditioning, plumbing, appliances, and more. Don't let an unexpected repair wreck your budget. With Choice Home Warranty, that covered repair is fixed or replaced for you.
Choice Home Warranty has been a great company to work with, and they've taken care of us. I would suggest anybody who lives in a home not to be in a home without them.
Avoid the ticking clock of home appliances and systems breaking down with a plan from Choice Home Warranty. Call now to get your first month free. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll give you $120 off your first year of coverage. That's $200 in total savings.
With a nationwide network of over 25,000 technicians, I don't worry about how my next breakdown will be handled. With a click of a button, my claim is filed, and Choice Home Warranty starts the clock. They do the legwork, hiring the right technician and handling the cost of covered repairs and replacements. And check this out. For a limited time, you can get 1 month of coverage free. Did you hear me? Free. You can't beat that deal with a sledgehammer. But hurry, this offer is ticking away. Once the clock hits 0, poof, it's gone.
Don't fear the breakdown clock. Get a plan from Choice Home Warranty and get round-the-clock money-saving protection you can count on. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll give you $120 off your first year of coverage, plus get your first month free. This offer won't last long.
Get your home protected. Call now.
Don't wait for an appliance or system to break down. Call before that happens. Call 800-983-3523. 800-983-3523.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear, call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
See, Smokey thinks I'm funny.
NTD News, the fastest growing independent news source in America, bringing you breaking news from around the world. Expert analysis, investigative reporting, and original award-winning